Last week, you released the brakes. You made the move you've been circling for years. And I told you the truth that it was never about doubt, it was delay. So let me ask you the question nobody asks after a breakthrough. Now what? Because here's what I've watched happen to good people more times than I can count. They finally make the leap, they get the thing, start the thing, change the thing. And for a season, it's glorious. And then quietly, without any alarm going off, they stop. Not because they failed, because they arrived. They got comfortable and they slowly stopped climbing and never even noticed the day it happened. Let me paint you a picture. Picture a mountain climber who fought for weeks to reach a ledge, exhausted, triumphant, finally somewhere beautiful. And it's so comfortable up there. And the view is so good that he sets down, pack, pitches his tent, and he rests, which is right and good for a night. But then one night becomes a week becomes a season, and one day you find him, years later, still on the same ledge. Not because he can't climb any higher, but because he forgot he was supposed to. He didn't fall off the mountain, he camped on it. And the ledge that once felt like victory slowly became the exact place his growth came to die. This is the danger of this final dimension. Awareness lets you see it. Alignment aimed you. Accountability gave you a witness. Application built the daily habit. Action made you leap. But advancement is what keeps you climbing after the leap. So that a single brave moment becomes a lifetime of momentum and you never drift back down the gate again. Tonight, 5 things. The first two takes the pressure off because I'm going to show you the summit is a lie and that you don't need a bigger leap. You just need to not stop. But the third one is going to sting just a little bit because I'm going to show you that the plateau you've been calling peace is where you quietly start dying. And the fourth, this is where it flips because you've been trying to advance by willpower. And I'm going to show you why you actually advance by becoming. And at the end, the 3-move audit that keeps you climbing for the rest of your life. This is Dimension 6, Advancement, the finale of series number 1. I'm Dwayne Dwyer, the Mindset Coach. This is Coach's Corner. And tonight, we keep climbing.
Mindset shift, go. Yeah, we locked in tight. Clean heart, new life. Bass hit, feel right. Fake talk all night. Coach's Corner wave. We don't drift, we brave. Pressure make praise. We don't chase, we pray. Mindset Academy. Built on legacy. Turn plain to recipe. Now it's joy and energy. Hands up, no fear. New steps right here. If you hear that call, you can stand up tall. From the fight to the win. Yeah. Let the change begin. Mindset shift, go. Renew your mind, go. We move with the light, we shine in the night. Mindset shift, go. Renew your mind, go. Coach's Corner sound, make the whole room bounce. Kingdom in my talk, purpose in my walk. Always cut off, new grace won't stop. Hustle with a halo, peace when the day's cold. Joy in my payload, hope in my base load. The mindset go speak, truth make me leap. Heart set on me, but my praise go deep. From the head to the feet, let it all.
Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Coach's Corner. My name is Dwayne Dwyer. I go by the Mindset Coach. Listen, I want to thank you for joining us on this evening. Again, it is an honor to be here, to be able to share in conversation with you. Our most prized possession, our fan base. So I just want to thank you. I thank you for joining us this evening. I thank you for staying tuned with us. If you've been through the entirety of this series, I'm hoping that you're getting something out of it. I'm hoping that you're getting something that you have decided that you're going to go back and replay over and over and over again, because ideally you see that the things that I'm sharing with you, you can action them right now and they're actually working. So if you're doing that, kudos to you. Again, you're awesome. I appreciate you. If you have not done it, you've exercised a little bit of skepticism. That's okay. Just you need to kind of understand why and try to overcome that skeptic that's in you, so that you can actually action these steps. Because again, I'm telling you, they work. So if you're with us tonight, regardless of whether you're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, it doesn't really matter. I just want to welcome you to this evening's show. Wherever you are, hit that like button and do not forget to share this episode with somebody who you believe that would actually find value in the conversation that we're having. As you heard, this is the finale of the series. Okay. I'm going to tell you up front and then I'm going to tell you in the end. There will be a break in between series. So after this episode, I won't be back for another 2 weeks. That gives you time to go back and renew the series. Hopefully, I mean, review, not renew. Review, renew the mind, review. Okay, never mind. Hope you go back and review the series so that you can get these things in you, start practicing them on a day-to-day basis. But tonight is all about advancement, and that's what the title of this particular show is: why you stop growing right after the breakthrough. I don't know about you. I know not just virtually from my own personal experience, but from experiences dealing with other people. There is a point in time where everybody gets to that point where they say, well, that's enough, or I got this now, or whatever that looks like. And I'm telling you right now that that works against you. You don't necessarily see it that way in that particular moment because either you're excited about what you've learned so far, you may describe it as being overwhelmed, but I bet you that you're a lot more resilient than what you give yourself credit for. So I caution, I take pause when I hear the word overwhelm, and I always wonder, is it really overwhelm we're talking about, or is it the fact that you're trying to wrap your mind around everything so that you can quote unquote get it before you continue moving forward. But then you'll be just like that man that's on that mountaintop I just got finished talking about, to where you camp out and then you just take refuge right there. So let's kind of get into this conversation because I really do believe that this conversation you will find a lot of value in. And, I enjoyed, when I first started going through this, I enjoyed learning this, years ago, to be honest with you. But getting to the point to where I am teaching it, not just on a one-on-one basis, on a corporate basis, on a um, more large-scale basis, on a podcast. I take joy in that. And if I have your ears, if I have your attention, I want to thank you for paying me with the cheapest version of currency that exists, which is called attention. So that said, let's kind of dive into it. So talking point number one is the summit is a lie. The arrival was never the point. The climbing itself actually is. Let's correct the map before you climb another foot because you've been sold a lie about the top. You've been taught that success is a summit, a fixed place you arrive at. Plant your flag. And finally, rest. Get the degree, land the marriage, hit the number, reach the breakthrough. And then you believed you have made it and the striving stops. But there's no summit. There's only the next ridge. Every peak you've ever climbed showed you a higher one you couldn't see from the ground. That's not cruelty, that's the design. You were built for glory to glory, not glory and then recliner. So when you got the thing you chased and felt the strange flatness a week later, that wasn't ingratitude. And it wasn't proof you chose wrong. It was your soul telling you the truth the culture wants. And arriving was never the point. The climbing itself is. And the moment you believed you've arrived is the exact moment you stop advancing. See, I think everyone has experienced this in their life and at some stage or another, I'll say it that way. And if you have not, or if you believe you have not, I bet if you reflect long enough, you will realize that you have. But let's take a look at this. What got you here won't get you there. I really just want to resonate right here for a second. I really just want to sit and just kind of, as we used to say back in the day, just kind of wallow in this for just a second. What got you here won't get you there. I think Einstein said it as well. The same mind created some problems that this mind can't fix something of that magnitude. So you can't use the exact same skill set to get you beyond the point that you got to using that skill set. It takes another skill set. It takes another mindset. It takes another connection, if you will. But for whatever reason, we struggle in this regard because we think I am complete right there. I'm good. See, you really have to sit in this right here and read it slowly because it's more of a warning disguised as a sentence. The very habits, mindsets, and moves that produce your last breakthrough are not the ones that will produce your next one. The skill set that got you to the promotion won't get you won't get you the leadership. The belief that got you saved isn't the same belief that matures you. I'm listen. I want to say this because I think it's important to say, and I think this is one of the sticking points that we experience. There is layers in just about everything that exists. There's layers of your mindset. There's layers of belief system. There's layers, multiple layers. I think we get comfortable getting in the door and becoming a card carrying member. And for those of you who've ever gone to a gym, just signing up for the membership isn't enough. I actually have to go to the gym and do this thing, do the things, if you will, and work up a sweat to generate the results that I want. See, we call that sweat equity. I say it again, we call that sweat equity. Just because I'm in the place does not necessarily believe that everything is going to happen for me through metamorphosis or whatever, osmosis, I say it that way. It doesn't work that way. It's not just going to seep in you just because I'm existing in a place. No, you actually have to do some work there. So that belief that got you saved isn't the same belief that matures you. Success is not a staircase where you repeat the same step. Every new level demands a new you, which means the graduation is also a fresh enrollment. See, I think sometimes we kind of just stay stuck right there. We think proximity creates promotion, but that's not true. See, positive psychology researcher Tal Ben Shahar, who taught one of Harvard's most popular courses, named this as what is known as the arrival fallacy. Now, this is the interesting thing. The false belief that reaching a goal will produce lasting happiness. It rarely does. It's reinforced by a well-documented effect psychologists call the hedonic adaptation. After a major positive event, people tend to return to roughly their prior baseline of happiness within a matter of months. So that hollow feeling after the big win isn't a malfunction. It's the rule. I believe God wired a holy relentlessness, restlessness, all kind of lessness in us, right? I believe he kind of wired us. He wired us not just on purpose, but for purpose. Mm. He not only wired us on purpose, he wired us for purpose. So no earthly summit could ever satisfy you enough to make you stop climbing towards him, not the thing, him. I'm certain that someone believes that it's more of a curse. But listen, I get it. I get all of that. But I want you to look at it like this. The arrival fallacy is only a curse if your destination is a thing. But what if your destination is God himself, the infinite one? Then the fact that there's always further to go isn't a possibility. It itself is the invitation. See, I think Paul said pretty much similar to the same thing in the book of Philippians. He said, "Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before." Let me say that part again. Forgetting those things that are behind. I say it again. Forgetting those things that are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. It's not by happenstance. I get it. I understand. We all want to remember, but let's focus on what's before us, because what is before us is where he exists. He doesn't exist. He doesn't exist behind. He's not behind us. He's before us. I think this is the thing that I believe. There's no need for me to keep looking back when where I am right now is the culmination of everything that I've ever been through. Let me say that part again. There's no need for me to keep looking back when where I am right now is the culmination of everything that I've ever been through. I don't know. To me, that just makes perfect sense. But I just leave that there. So my question is, if there is no summit and it's always the next ridge, how is that not just a treadmill of never being satisfied? Where does contentment fit? Doesn't the Bible tell us to be content? I think this is a phenomenal question, first of all. Um, and I, the Bible actually does talk about being content. And here's the distinction that keeps this from becoming a treadmill. Contentment and complacency are not the same thing. I'll say that again. Contentment and complacency are not the same thing. Paul, who actually wrote, I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. Well, he is the exact same person who wrote, I press toward the mark. He held both at once, and so must you. Contentment is about your heart, a settled place that your joy is anchored in God and not in the next achievement. Complacency is about your growth. Quitting the climb because you've gotten comfortable, you can be completely at peace and still be pressing. In fact, only the content person can advance healthily because they're climbing from a place of fullness, not desperation. Discontent says, I need the next thing to be okay. Advancement says, I'm already okay. And I refuse to stop growing because the God who called me is worth reaching for. Be content with what you have. Never be content with whom you become. Those are two totally different questions. And as always, that brings me to the point of having a question for you guys. Just because I think you guys are awesome, right? So your question is, think about the last big thing you achieved, the goal you were sure would make you feel arrived. Now, be honest. How long did that how long did that satisfaction actually last before the flatness set in? And here's the deeper one. What if that flatness was never a sign you needed a bigger achievement, but a sign you were made for for a moving relationship with God rather than a finish line? What would change if you stopped chasing the summit that doesn't exist and started enjoying the climb that does? See, I believe when people track the honest half lie of their happiness, it kind of humbles them just a little bit. The accomplishment they spent years chasing often gave them about 3 weeks of glee, if you will. And that's the grace in it, I believe. If you know, I've been talking about grace now for a minute, so I'm really stuck on grace. Just simply because I don't believe we have a really good understanding of grace. We think grace is limited to just one thing. And I just don't believe that. But anyway, that's something that we'll talk more about in Bible study. So if you haven't joined Bible study, make sure that you sign up and come hang out in Bible study with us. But going back to our point, like it frees you from the exhausting lie that the next thing will finally do it. The people who make peace with there is no summit actually become the calmest climbers I know because they stop white knuckling the destination and start walking with God on the way. The joy was never at the top. It was always in the climb with him. You've heard it before, right? Don't focus on the destination. Enjoy the journey. And that really means you already have access to it. If I'm enjoying the journey, if I'm enjoying the climb with him. So today, right where you're standing on the mountaintop, it's available to you. And I want you to kind of lean into it, press in, right? Don't just sit on the outside and observe, because observers, well, they never do anything but observe. Press in, lean in, enjoy the climb. Let him walk with you on the way. Talking point number 2. I do not believe you need a bigger leap. You need not stop. Here's the pressure I want to take off you tonight. You think advancement requires another heroic leap, some massive, dramatic, all or nothing move, right? I'm all on black or all on red. You think that's what it requires, like the one you made in Dimension 5. And because the next leap looks so big, you freeze and you drift. The advancement itself is not built by bigger leaps. Contrarily, it's built by not stopping. Some might call it consistency. However, we can be consistently doing the wrong thing, consistently adopting and maintaining bad habits, consistently displaying the same behaviors, or consistently just lost, consistently stuck, consistently stagnant. Yeah, that's a thing too. And my question to you is, how much closer have that actually got you to where you want to be? People who climb the highest aren't the ones who take the most spectacular jumps. They're the ones who refuse to quit taking small steps long after the excitement wore off. 1% better is nothing on Tuesday. It's actually invisible. But 1% better compounded is a completely different person a year from now. You have overestimated what a single leap can do and drastically underestimated what a small step repeated will do. You don't need to be more impressive. You need to be more relentless. The summit isn't reached by leaping, it's reached by climbing and refusing to camp. See, in the book Atomic Habits, habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Compound interest. That's the whole secret of advancement in 5 words. Nobody gets rich from one big deposit. They get wealthy because a small amount left to compound becomes staggering over time. Your growth works exactly the same way. The prayer nobody sees, the chapter nobody claps for, the workout that changed nothing today. Those aren't small, they're deposits. And the interest is a life you won't recognize in a few years, built by moves that felt like they didn't matter. When David Brailsford took over British cycling, he didn't chase one breakthrough. He pursued what he called, you got to catch this because this is so good. He pursued what he called aggregation of marginal gains. Get 1% better at everything and let it stack. Within a few years, the program went from decades of futility to dominating the Olympics and the Tour de France. The math is why. Get 1% better every day for a year. And 1.01 to the 365th power is about 38 times better. Get 1% worse each day, and you decline to nearly nothing. 38 times. Not 38%. 38 times. From 1% a day, that is the difference between the person who advances and the person who plateaus. And it is seldom talent or one giant leap. It's the boring faithfulness of small steps. That no one, I'll say again, that no one is applauding for. The exact steps you've been tempted to quit because they don't seem to be doing nothing. I think that's rather interesting. So I got a long question for me. So I'm gonna have to pay close attention to it because I think, I think this is a good question. If it's all small steps, how does anyone ever make a big jump? Sometimes people really do need a breakthrough leap, not just 1%. Aren't you underselling the leap you just preached last week? I don't think so. In fact, I would say not at all. And I love the fact that you're holding me accountable to last week, right? As I keep saying, relationships require two things: responsibility and accountability. But here's how it fits together. The leap itself opens the door, the climb builds the house. See, dimension five was the leap, the one brave move that gets you off the bank and into the new season. But a leap with no follow through is just a stunt. I've literally watched people I've literally watched people make courageous jumps and then plateau because they thought the leap was the finish line when it was only the starting line. The leap gets you there, the small steps get you established. And here's the beautiful part: the small steps are what make the next leap possible. The compound quietly for months. And one day you're standing at the base of a jump that would have terrified you a year ago. And now you make it because the climb built the legs. Don't despise the small beginnings. I say it again. Don't despise the small beginnings, the small steps waiting for a leap. The small steps are how God grows the person who can survive the leap. So thank you for that question. I think that's an awesome question as well. That said, I have a question for you. And your question is, what is the one small step, the 1% move you've been quitting because it doesn't feel like it's working? The prayer, the pages, the walk, the discipline you keep abandoning right before it compounds. Now imagine the version of you who did the exact small thing unglamorously every day for the next year. Who is that person? And what has your impatience for a dramatic leap been costing you in the quiet steps that would actually get you there? I believe when people picture the 1 year version of themselves who just didn't stop, it almost always moves them because they realize the gap between where they are and where they want to be was never a leap that they couldn't make. It was a small step they kept quitting. And the reason they kept quitting is always the same. They want the compound interest without the boring deposits. Nobody feels the 1% on the day they do it. You only feel it in the rearview mirror. So the invitation is simple and unglamorous. Pick the small step back up, and this time refuse to stop long enough to let it compound. That's not a lack of ambition. That's how ambition actually gets paid. So if you're finding value in this conversation, real quick, I want you to put a one in the comment section. If you are finding value so far in this conversation, put a one in the comment section. We are almost at the, well, we're literally at the halfway mark, to be honest with you. So put a one in the comment section. I want to see you ones. If you're not, put a two. I'm okay with that. If you're not finding value yet, put a two. Okay. That moves us to point number 3. The plateau feels like peace, but it's where you start dying. This is the portion that I need you to sit with because it's the one that saves people. You think the danger of your growth is failure. It isn't. The danger is comfort. Failure at least gets your attention. It hurts, so you adjust. But the plateau, it does not. The plateau feels like peace. It feels like you finally arrived, finally earned the right to coast. You're not failing. You're not in crisis. You're just level, comfortable. And that's precisely why it's so deadly, because nothing is sounding the alarm while you quietly stop growing. The plateau doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like decline. It feels like rest. But there's a difference between resting on a mountain and camping on it forever. Rest refuels the climb. Camping ends it. And most people don't fall off the mountain. They pitch a tent, call it home, and slowly forget they were ever climbing. Comfort is not the reward for the climb. Comfort is the thing most likely to end it. Now, one of my favorite quotes, I'll give you two first. And I learned this one a long time ago. The enemy of great is good. I say again, the enemy of great is good. So I want you to let that set in. And if you're taking notes, make sure that you capture that one, because that's one to post on your wall, on your refrigerator, what have you. But here's the next one. Good is the enemy of great was actually said by Jim Collins. Good to great. I mean, think about it. The enemy of great is not bad. It's actually good. I say it again. The enemy of great is not bad. It's good. Bad, you would fight. Bad, you would fix. But good, good is comfortable. Comfortable enough to settle into. Most people never become great, not because they failed, but because they succeeded. Just enough to stop. Good enough is the most expensive phrase in your vocabulary because it's the exact place your growth goes to quietly retire while you tell yourself you're fine. See, psychologist Anders Ericsson, the world's leading researcher on expertise, documented something he called the OK plateau. This is where people reach a level of performance they consider acceptable. Whether it's, it could be something small as driving, typing, their job, even their walk. They stop improving, often for decades, even with more years of experience. The autopilot kicks in, deliberate effort stops, and growth flatlines. More time on the plateau does not equal more skill. I say again, more time on the plateau does not equal more skill. Being in a place for an extended period of time does not make you more better at the thing that you're supposed to be doing. I say it more better. That's right. So just because I've been in a church for 30 years, just because I've been on this job for 18 years, just because I've been married for 50 years, that doesn't mean that I'm good at it. It just actually means that I've existed there. See, you got to let that land. 20 years of experience can be 1 year of growth repeated 19 times. It could be. You can log 2 decades on the plateau and be no further up the mountain than you were at year 1. Because experience without intentional stretching isn't advancement, it's just aging. And the plateau is comfortable enough that you'll never notice it stealing your potential unless somebody loves you enough to name it, consider it named. See, I think in the book of Revelations, no, and I want you guys to just get the chapter, verse, and all that great stuff. See, the book of Revelation kind of give us a snippet of that. And a lot of times we kind of, read by it because we consider it in that particular text, but I don't really think we think into it a lot. Revelations 13:15-16 says, I know thy works, that thou art neither cold or hot. I would thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm, you've chose the middle ground. You decided to exist in space. You chose the middle ground. You are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot. I will spew thee out of my mouth. Like, if that does not frighten you, then I check your pulse. That's all I can say. Check your pulse. I don't want to be that person. That's just me. I can only speak for me. I can't speak for anybody else. Nor would I ever try to. Check your pulse. Don't choose lukewarm. Choose hot or cold. Doesn't God call us to rest? You're not saying rest is bad, are you? How does someone tell the difference between godly rest and spiritual plateau they're calling rest? This, my friend, is an amazing question because the enemy will absolutely use, I say it again, the enemy will absolutely use, I'm just resting, as the anesthesia for a plateau. And God is genuinely serious about rest. He built a whole Sabbath around it. So here's how to tell them apart. Godly rest is a comma. A plateau is a period. Rest is intentional. It's bounded and it's aimed. You stop to keep going, like a climber catching his breath for the next ridge. A plateau is unintentional. It has no end date and it's aimed at nothing. You stopped and you just never started again. So ask yourself 2 questions. Did I choose to stop or did I just drift into it? because rest is chosen. Plateaus are drifted into. Second question, is there a date I get back on the mountain? Or have I already, how can I say it like this? I'll get back to it. You have no specifics. So I'll get back to it. To where it quietly, in essence, it quietly becomes your next address. Rest has a return. A plateau moves in. Sabbath rest always faces back toward the climb. If your rest has no intention of climbing again, it stopped being rest long ago. And that, my friend, is unfortunate. Great question, though. Your question, where in your life are you comfortable in calling it peace? The area where you're not failing, not in crisis, just level, and haven't genuinely grown in a long time. Now, here's where it might just, prick you just a little bit. Is that actually rest? Or have you pitched a tent on a plateau and decorated it so nicely you forgot you were supposed to be climbing? And what would it cost you 5 years from now to still be exactly this comfortable and exactly this far up the mountain? How would you? Mm, I believe this question makes room to makes like it would make the room get quiet if we were all in the same room, because almost everybody has plateaued. They've been calling it peace though, and I'm not saying that everybody right now in the world has plateaued. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying at some point in time, in some different arena of your life, and in some area of your life, you have plateaued before, or maybe still plateauing right now, and have literally called it peace. But is it really peace, or is it like you've excommunicated anybody outside of you that would actually identify the thing and be an accountability partner to you based upon your relationship? See, this is where I believe plateaus actually happen. They happen in relationships. They happen in our walk with the Most High. It happens in our body. A calling that hasn't moved in years. Well, he's still working on me. Sure, he's working on everybody, but he works in the process. He don't work in the stagnation. Me choosing stagnation, choosing a plateau, is me choosing to no longer participate in the work that he is doing. I get it. I get it. I understand that too. But just because it feels a little uncomfortable does not necessarily mean it's not right. In fact, the climb itself is uncomfortable. So if the climb itself is uncomfortable, should not stagnation be 10 times more uncomfortable? Because I'm not experiencing the joys of the climb. I'm not experiencing the joys during the climb. I'm not climbing with him. And oh, yeah, by the way, I'm not in his will. See, when you picture being exactly comfortable in 5 years, what it actually is, it is a slow, painless leak of everything that could have become. That's the healing that is hidden in the sting itself. The plateau only wins as long as it stays invisible. The moment you can see the tent, you can break camp. And you don't break camp with a heroic leap. You break it with one small step back into the climb, taken on purpose today, not tomorrow, not next week, not I'm going to do it, not I'm going to get into it. No, it's done today. There is no such, listen, time is intriguing to me, right? Time is about as intriguing to me as psychology is intriguing to me. Did you know you have no other time but now? See, we can talk about the past, we can talk about the future, but the only time you got is now. I say that one more time. The only time you got is now. Well, for the person who just heard that and said, well, so I'm supposed to be doing everything right now. It's not what I just said. I said the only time you got is now. So the decisions that we put off, thinking, well, I'll do that next week, or I'll do that next month, I'll do that next year, or I'll do that when. It's like going to the bank and taking out a loan, a high interest loan. But I'm going to the bank, and I don't want you to think about going to the bank and taking out a loan that you can afford. Go to the bank, think about taking out a loan that you can't afford, because that's what happens when we bank. When listen, when we make future promises to ourselves, that's what we're doing. I don't own time. I'm not guaranteed the future. I get it. I understand. Making promises for tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, in the life that was gifted to you, grace. Again, this keeps coming up, I'm telling you. In the life that was gifted to you, is like going to the bank and taking out a high interest loan, knowing that I do not have the money to pay the bank back. So what I'm really doing is I'm moving my hope from him to the hope that I'll be able, to be around tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. So if you understand, like, attenuation over distance, right? That's an electronic term used in the electronic realm. Attenuation over distance. The further away it is, then the less focused it can become. But if I'm telling you about that, how about now? Do you realize that if I am shooting a beam at this thing right here in front of me, it will get a mass focus, very streamlined, very tight, very powerful. If I take this across the street and put it in my neighbor's yard and do the same thing, it spreads. That's attenuation over distance. So when we really look at this whole thing we call faith, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. The things that I'm doing tonight, the things that I'm doing today, tonight, right now, should be rooted in the thing that I hope for. Therefore, not only is my hope there, but my focus is on what I'm doing right now. And because my hope is there, my hope on the thing that I have hope for is determining the thing that I do right now. Yeah, y'all get that. I'm sorry, I don't want to beat you to death. Y'all get that. Okay. You don't advance by willpower. You advance by becoming. By far my favorite topic in this whole conversation right now. See, I think we have to process this thing and this thing alone right here before we move any further. Behavior always return to identity. I want to say it again. Behavior always return to identity. Let's say it one more time. Behavior always turn to identity. So for people who are out there practicing behavioral modification, I think I'm pointing in the right direction. The word behavior is here for me. Hopefully it's there for you guys. So for people who are practicing behavior modification, this is why it always fails. You can't practice behavior modification. It must be identity modification. If I modify my identity, my behavior must follow. Listen, if there was ever a golden nugget or a golden goose in this conversation, that, my friend, is it. Because I think this is where it flips. If you heard what I just said, I just literally gave you the strategy. See, you've been trying to advance by grinding harder and adding more discipline and white knuckling your way up through sheer willpower, which is in essence behavior modification. And you found that you found out exactly what everyone finds out. Willpower runs out. You get tired. You get burnt out. You don't believe me? Just look at your workplace. That's how burnout happens. See, you can force new behavior for a while, but if the person underneath doesn't change, you will always snap back. I say again, you will always snap back, just like a rubber band, to its original shape. So real advancement was never mainly about doing more. It was about becoming someone new. And then the new behavior follows. out of the new person naturally without constant strain. You don't claw your way to a renewed life by effort. You are transformed by the renewing of your mind. And the transformed life comes out of the transformed mind on its own. See, this is where every choice you make isn't just doing a thing, it's casting a vote for the kind of person you're turning into. So stop asking, what do I have to do? Start asking, who am I becoming? And does this choice match that person? Advancement is not addition, it is transformation. See, I think C.S. Lewis was trying to share something with us when we really stop and pay attention to it. See, every time you make a choice, you are turning the central part of you, the part that chooses, into something a little different from what it was before. See, he saw this a long time ago. You are never merely doing an action, you are becoming a person. Every choice is a chisel, and the statue it's carving, that's you. Which means there are no throwaway decisions. The small choice you think doesn't matter is quietly shaping the central part of you, the part that chooses into someone. The only question is whether it's someone you'd want to meet. See, researchers at Stanford ran a striking study before an election, and they literally asked one group questions using a noun: how important is it to be a voter? And another group using a verb: how important is it to vote? The only difference was one word: identity versus action. I say again, identity versus action. The people prompted to see voting as part of who they were, an identity, turned out to vote at significantly higher rates. One word: being versus doing, measurably change behavior. You really have to sit with that. Not, I do healthy things, but I am a healthy person. Not, I'm trying to read my Bible, but I am someone who walks with God. The shift from doing to being isn't a word game, it's a mechanism. When the behavior becomes your identity instead of your effort, you stop needing willpower to sustain it. Because people don't exhaust themselves forcing what they simply are. This is why scripture never just says, do better. It says you are a new creature, and then tells you to walk like the person you already became. You got to see it to believe it. But we all, with open face, beholding as in a glass the glory of the Lord, are changed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. Interesting. Okay, let me get to my question. I'm getting excited. Let me get to my question. If advancement is about becoming and not just doing, does that mean effort and discipline don't matter? Again, another good question. So, simple answer, no. But I think that's the exact ditch on the other side of the road. That is. So I want to. So let me keep us out of that ditch as I'm trying to answer this question. See, identity does not replace effort; it directs it. And here's the order: you don't behave your way into a new identity by willpower alone, and you don't sit around waiting to feel new while doing nothing. You take God at His word about who He's already made you, a new creature, and then you act from that identity. I say that part again. You take God at His word at who He already made you to be, a new creature, and then you act from the belly of that new creature. It's not you climbing to become the new creature. It's you are a new creature and you behave from there. Will you get it right 100%? No, it's not that. But the focus is to actually act from that. and it doesn't change. And the actions reinforce the identity, and the identity fuels the next action. It's a spiral, not a switch. The effort is still there. It's just aimed differently. The old ways, well, the old way was effort to become worthy, exhausting because it never ends. The new way is effort that expresses who you already are in Christ, sustainable because you're not earning it, you're living it. So, yes, do the work, read the word, keep the discipline, take that small step, but do it as someone becoming who God already declared you to be. Not as someone who is like, how can I say it? Not as someone who is desperately trying to earn a self you don't believe you have yet. Same actions, completely different engine. So thank you for that question. And I hope that that actually makes sense. Now, question for the audience. Think about the change you keep trying to force and keep snapping back from it. Now ask a different question than you've been asking before. Not what do I have to do, but who would I have to become for that behavior to be natural instead of forced? Describe that person. And then the one that decides everything. What would you do differently this week if you actually believed you were already becoming them? That it wasn't a someday you were begging for it, but a today you were stepping into it. See, I believe the shift you can watch happen on many people's faces, especially if you're sitting with somebody in the same room, and you ask that question, you look at them. The shift that you would actually see in their face is the moment they stop asking, "How do I force this?" and start asking, "Who am I becoming?" Because the first question, like I said, is exhausting, and the second one is freeing. When someone generally believes they're becoming a person who walks with God, the behaviors stop feeling like a diet they're trying to white knuckle and start feeling like an identity they're living into. And that's the whole secret of advancement without burnout. I want you to think about a doctor who just graduated medical school. For them to actually go out and practice law, they have to go out believing that they're already a doctor, not that they're working their way to becoming a doctor. And if I'm being completely transparent, while they're in middle school, they probably need to adopt the mindset there, therefore, medical school, I'm sorry. While they're in medical school, they probably need to adopt the identity there so that they are actually doing the things in school from the seat of the identity that they gave themselves. So a doctor has to become a doctor before they become a doctor, if that makes sense. A believer has to be, okay, I'm sorry. A believer has to become a believer before they become a believer. You have to literally embody that and start behaving and seeing yourself as it. It probably won't make sense to people outside of you, but that's fine. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it because this is the climb. This is the mountain that you're climbing. The biggest hurdle that you're going to climb is actually releasing everything from the past and accepting exactly what he said. I say that part again. I say that part again because I think it's worth hearing. The biggest obstacle that you're ever going to climb is releasing everything from the past and embracing, embodying everything that he actually said. That gets you to the foot of the hill so that the climb can begin. You don't climb by gritting your teeth harder. You climb by beholding him because scripture says it's in the beholding. I'll say it again. It's in the beholding. It's in the beholding, behold, look, observe, pay attention. And I think it's even deeper than that. Behold. It's not just me looking, it's me being captivated to such a degree that I'm intoxicated by who. Oh, okay. It's so intoxicating that I see myself in him. Not that I'm trying to see me, right, as him. I'm seeing him as me. Behold. Okay. You guys get it. You become what you behold. So the question underneath every plateau is really, what have you been staring at? Fix your eyes higher, and the climbing takes care of itself. Okay. I'm sorry. I apologize, y'all. I'm looking at the time and I'm seeing that we're getting close, and I don't want to keep you much longer. So that takes us to point number 5, the advancement audit. Man, coach, you're giving us audits every week. Yeah, that's that. I mean, that's the thing. I have to give you an audit because I'm not working with you one on one, right? So the advancement audit, 3 moves that keeps you climbing. Okay, the advancement audit, 3 moves that keeps you climbing. If you haven't yet, get your pen and your piece of paper, get ready, right? When you are ready, I want to I want you to put in the comments. Just put a number 1. I don't want y'all to get fancy with me. Put a number 1 in the comment section when you are ready. Put a number 1 in the comment section when you are ready for the advancement audit. 3 moves to keep climbing. I say again, the advancement audit. 3 moves to keep climbing. All right. We are getting ready to take off. So as we get ready here, I want to make sure that you break camp. Really do. And not only break camp, I want you to keep climbing as well. Not someday, but this week. You can even start as early as tonight. 3 moves on the advancement audit. Number 1, raise the floor. Not the ceiling, the floor. Stop obsessing over your best day and start protecting your worst. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I'm going to say it again. Stop obsessing over your best day and start protecting your worst. See, I remember, this is a while ago. If we did parenting the right way, my ceiling, right, at least that they observed my ceiling to be at the time they left me and moved out into this world, that should have been their floor. Now it's not a transformation, if you will, but it's something that they were raised in. The mindset, the activity, the striving, and all that. They've seen it, they've embodied it, they've embraced it. They actually became a part of it if we did it the right way. That's the whole notion between master and apprentice. So they became apprentice of the master, and the master literally teaches the apprentice a couple of things. The master teaches the apprentice the mindset and the skill set. And they actually gave them the tool set while they were in the practice. So my ceiling at that particular point in time should have been their floor. So you raise the floor. That's step number 1. Advancement isn't how high you can reach when you're inspired. It's how high your baseline is when you're not. Don't ask, what's my new peak? Ask, what I will never drop below again. And lock that new minimum in. Number 2, name the next ridge before you rest. The plateau wins when you finish a climb with no next climb in view. So the moment you reach a goal, name the next one before you sit down. Never let yourself arrive somewhere without knowing where you're going next. A climber with a next ridge doesn't pitch a permanent tent. I say again, a climber with a next ridge doesn't pitch a permanent tent. That's why if we do goal setting the right way, you already have your next ridge. If we do goal setting the right way, that's a whole nother conversation. Number 3, give it away to keep it. I say again, give it away to keep it. The fastest way to secure the ground you've gained is to turn around and help someone one step behind you climb. Teaching it is how you master it. Serving is how you keep from stalling. And multiplication is how a single life becomes a legacy. Raise the floor, name the ridge, give it away. That's how you climb for the rest of your life instead of camping for the rest of your life. See, Bruce Barton gave us a very important quote here that I think is very interesting. When you're through changing, you're through. When you're through changing, you're through. I mean, it's almost frightening in its simplicity. The day you decide you're done growing is the day you're done. Period. Or as they would say, period. Right? Not done climbing, done. Full stop. Because in a world that keeps moving, standing still isn't neutral. It's falling behind. While convincing yourself that you're resting. As long as you're still changing, still climbing, still becoming, you're alive in the truest sense. The moment you stop, something in you starts to close. Advancement is not optional, people. It's the pulse of a living soul. See, there's a well documented reason Move 3 works. And researchers, they call it the protege effect. And the protege effect itself, I mean, I get it. Studies find that when people learn something in order to teach it to someone else, they understand it more deeply and retain it far better than when they learn it just for themselves. I mean, there's so many things that I can say here, but for the sake of time, I need to keep pressing. The act of preparing to teach forces you to organize, clarify, and truly own the material. So giving it away isn't charity that costs you. It's the very thing that cements you, or that cements what you've gained. You don't lose ground by lifting someone else up. You secure your own footing. This is God's economy, and it runs backwards to the world. You keep what you give, and you lose what you had hoard. The person you help up the mountain is the one who keeps you from sliding back down it, which is exactly why your breakthrough was never meant to end you. See, I don't know what better way to say that. Like, if somebody did not use the word disciple in the comment section right now, I would be extremely disappointed. But it's okay. I've been disappointed before. So my question is, how does someone, I say again, how does someone do that when they don't feel like they've arrived yet? A lot of people think, who am I to teach anybody? I'm still figuring it out myself. Isn't that the honest humility? It sounds like humility. I agree with that. But underneath it is usually an arrival fallacy, sneaking back in. The belief that you have to reach the summit before you're qualified to help. And since there is no summit, that day never comes, and you never give anything away. So let me free you of it right now. You are not called to teach from the mountaintop. I say again, you are not called to teach from the mountaintop. I say it the third time. You are not called to teach from the mountaintop. You are called to reach back one step. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to be, you just have to be one honest step ahead of the person behind you. And there's always someone one step behind you. The person 3 chapters into your walk desperately needs the person 1 chapter. The person 3 chapters into their walk desperately needs the person on chapter 5, not the person on chapter 50. You understand their struggle in a way that experts forgot years ago. And here's the grace in it. There it is again, grace. I keep saying it. Here's the grace in it. You help them most not by pretending you've arrived. I say again, you help them most not by pretending you've arrived, but being honest that you're still climbing. That's not disqualifying. That's the whole testimony. Don't wait until you arrive to reach back. You never will. Reach back from right where you are on the climb. So great question. I greatly appreciate that. And here's my question for you guys as we get ready to transition, because we're beyond the hour mark. I want you to run the audit on yourself right now. 1, what is the new floor? The minimum you refuse to ever drop below again. And will you lock it in this week? 2, you're standing on a plateau you just named a moment ago. What is the very next ridge? And can you name it before you leave tonight so you don't have to pitch a tent? And 3, who is one step behind you right now that you could turn around and help climb? Not when you arrived, but this week as you are. The people who actually keep climbing are the ones who leave with all 3 answered out loud. A floor they locked in, a ridge they named, and a person in the name of a person they're going back for. And notice the third one. The third one is the one that changes everything, because the moment you turn around and help someone else, your own climb stops being about you. And that's the secret that never plateau. That's the secret to never plateauing again. A life aimed only at your own summit eventually stalls because you run out of reasons to keep going once you're comfortable. But a life aimed to help others climb never runs out of moments. That's not just advancement anymore. That's the beginning of legacy. And legacy is exactly what this series is all about and where this series is taking us. So I want to bring the whole series home, because if we don't do that, I think we'll miss something very important. The summit was always a lie. Success was never a destination you arrive at. It's a climb you stay on. You never needed a bigger leap. You needed to not stop, because 1% compounded becomes a person you won't recognize. The plateau that felt like peace was where you were quietly dying, and comfort, not failure, was the real threat all along. But you don't advance by willpower. You advance by becoming. Changed from glory to glory as you behold him. So you keep climbing. The only way anyone does: raise the floor, name the ridge, and give it away. Now, let's step back and look at the whole mountain we climbed together this series. Awareness, you saw it. In fact, I'm sorry. Let me see if I can do this, because I think this might. There we go. Yeah, I don't, you may, it's kind of hazy. I don't have a black background up. If I did, it would have helped. Let me see. Let's see. Can I do that? Will you allow me to do that? I don't think it's going to let me do it. Okay. That's fine. Awareness, you saw it. Alignment, you aimed at it. Accountability, you got a witness. Application, you built the daily habit. Action, you made the leap. Advancement, you keep climbing. 6 dimensions of a renewed mind. That's the whole framework. That's the map. So here's the only question left tonight. Where are you on the map? Don't guess. Guessing is how another year of compounding disappeared. This is literally the main reason and the purpose behind what we call the Mind Renewal Index, because the Mind Renewal Index takes the guessing out of the game. I'll say again, the Mind Renewal Index takes the guessing out of the game. 36 questions, 8 minutes, anchored in scripture, measures all 6 dimensions, including tonight's advancement. It will show you in black and white exactly which dimension is your next climb and where your renewal goes from here. The Mindset Coach.academy/renew. It is free. All 6 dimensions plus your next climb. And here's your assignment before you go to sleep tonight. Take the index and run the advancement audit on your own life. Lock in your new floor. Name your next ridge and pick one person, one step behind you to reach back for this week. Don't pitch a tent on the ledge. Keep climbing. That's the finale of series 1. 6 dimensions, 1 renewed mind. But hear me, reaching the summit of yourself was never the end of the story, because a renewed life was never meant to stop with you. So in series 2, we go from advancement to multiplication and legacy. How the mind God renewed in you becomes the inheritance you leave in others. Taking the mountain is a moment. Handing it down is a legacy. I'm Dwayne Dwyer. Don't just get renewed. Become the reason someone else does. I'll see you in 2 weeks for series 2.